The sound you hear is what some experts claim to be a Bigfoot scream. Recorded in the state of Washington by a group of campers in 1971, it is regarded as the highest quality audio of the creature ever captured.
Hello, welcome to Bigfoot Real Encounters. We're glad to have you stop by. We'd also like to take this time to invite you to share your encounter. You can send your stories to the email bfrealencounters@mail.com, where we will feature your story with all of the respect that it deserves. So send your stories in, bfrealencounters@mail.com. We look forward to hearing from you and your great stories soon. Hey everybody, welcome back. Bigfoot Real Encounters. We got 3 great stories for you today. I hope you're going to like them. My West Virginia Bigfoot and more West Virginia Bigfoot have done better than all of my other videos combined. So I thought I'd kind of keep with the theme of the Bigfoot from different states. And as you saw from the thumbnail, today's Bigfoot is from Tennessee. And these stories are from my favorite place on earth, near and around the Smoky Mountains and Gatlinburg area. This should be very interesting, so let's not waste any more time. Let's go. The first story we have is from the year 2002, in the month of July. It's in Sevier County. Nearest town is Gatlinburg. And they were driving north, just crossed the border into Tennessee from North Carolina on Highway 441 and 71, driving toward Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It was getting dark, so we drove on down the mountain. After a few minutes of driving around curves in the highway, we came to a straight section of the highway and could see street lights through the tree-covered highway about a mile ahead. There was a curve in the highway where they were positioned. All of a sudden, from our vantage point, the lights illuminated the shadow side of a very tall being crossing the highway from left to the right, which was less than a half mile in front of us. We all had a clear view of this being from the shadow side. It looked hairy and not clothed. It was walking on 2 feet the entire crossing of the highway. We could not see anything when we got to the area where the being had crossed due to the darkness. It was ape-like, in my opinion, and large. I found this website, and although it's been a few years ago, I wanted to tell what my wife and I and our 2 friends saw and experienced. I think Bigfoot is in those woods somewhere. That's quite a short story, but we've heard it before, folks. You know, people driving down a country road, and there's the big guy crossing the road in front of them. We've heard it before. It's a typical sighting, and this one is in the Great Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, between Tennessee and North Carolina, as it were, on this one. So, and one other thing, if you like my stories, please hit the like button. It helps tell YouTube computer algorithms that this is a video that they can actually suggest for other viewers to watch. All right, we got another great story here from near Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It's in Sevier County. The nearest town here says it's from Smokemont. Back from 1970. In late spring of 1970, while traveling south between Gatlinburg, Tennessee and Cherokee, North Carolina on Highway 441, somewhere near the state line in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, we sighted a very tall, hairy creature. We were cruising down the road, wondering if we could see any bear, and as we rounded a curve, there was this creature coming from the right side of the road, downgrade from some small trees and bushes that still had leaves. It moved across the road directly in front of us, and after entering the bushes on the left side of the road, angled off the same direction we were traveling. We could still see its head for a few seconds before it disappeared. I would guess the height of it to be somewhere in the 7+ foot tall range. It had a very long stride and walked like a human, swinging its long arms with its stride. It covered the distance of 100 feet or so in seconds. It never looked at us. There were no noticeable features that stood out. It was tall, slender, smooth, clean, straight hair that covered this whole body, and its head just seemed to come out of the body with no noticeable neck. We were flabbergasted at the sight of it and tried to convince ourselves it was a bear. But we knew it could not be because of the way it walked and its height. No nose protruded, nor could we see any facial features, as it never looked at us, nor showed any signs of being there. We were cruising along probably around 45 miles an hour with almost no other traffic on the road that day. It happened so quickly that my wife never had time to pick up the camera in her lap and get a picture. So wow, I've heard that before. People encounter these things and they'll have camera in hand, and it doesn't even occur to them to use it. A lot of folks say, well, how come there aren't many more pictures of these? Well, if you find yourself in a situation where you become surprised or scared, it may not be so easy to think of recording the situation, by taking a picture or pushing a record on an audio device. This happens to a lot of folks. So there's two great stories from a very, very popular destination in this country, the Great Smoky Mountains near Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I've been there many times, and I gotta tell you, one time I was there back in 1995, and the one night was an interesting night because my mother-in-law told me the next morning. Well, she actually asked me if I had heard all the howling going on, and I had not heard it. I slept through the night. I had done all the driving. It's a 10-hour drive from Ohio down to the Gatlinburg area. But anyway, she heard howling and different sounds out, and she looked out the window, and she said that she saw red glowing eyes. And I kind of wrote her off at that point. We were thinking, well, could it have been cougars? Mountain lions, in the area, but it was August. And other folks that we talked to said they don't know why it would have been mountain lions. They wouldn't be making that kind of noise at that time of year, possibly during the spring, early springtime when they were during mating season type of thing. But nobody could figure this out. It wasn't until later years that I had connected the dots and figured, oh my goodness, it could have been Sasquatches in the area. But apparently there's a lot of stories from down there, and I've heard others tell me that they have made themselves a nuisance in the area, going through the trash bins and stuff and scaring people. They try to keep it low key because it's a tourist destination, a very, very popular one. It's worth going. I mean, we need to know that these beings exist and they're around. We just need to know how to handle it if we do come across one. But anyway, that was from 1970. The Bigfoot stories weren't very popular back then. It was only 2 years before that the Patterson-Gimlin film had come out. And it was still very slowly making its way across the nation at the time. If you've had any odd encounters in the Smoky Mountains while on vacation, or maybe you even live down there, drop a comment below. We'd love to hear from it. Or better yet, send your stories into bfrealencounters@mail.com and share your stories with the world. Well, I'll be glad to read them out word for word to the best of my ability. And you can remain anonymous if you want, or I can read your name if you want. It's all up to you. But the important thing is, we need to get the word out about the creatures. We know our government isn't going to tell us about what they know about them, so we'll do it ourselves. We the people have a voice. We'll tell our own stories. We'll make sure that our children and friends know about them from us. All right, enough of that. So we have another story here from Sevier County, Tennessee, and the nearest town is Kodak. Now this was late October 2008. Unsure of exact date, at approximately 2:30 a.m., my oldest son called me on his cell phone. I was upstairs doing some research on the computer, and he was downstairs on the back porch smoking a cigarette. I could tell by the tone of his voice that he was scared or excited about something. He said, "You need to get out here right now and bring the spotlight and the shotgun with you." I immediately retrieved both items from my bedroom and met him on the back of the porch. His eyes were as big as dinner plates, and he looked a little pale. Now my son, 18 at the time of the sighting, started hunting the swamps of North Florida with me when he was 4. And he's normally very calm and doesn't get spooked or excited very easily. So when I saw him like this, I knew something had definitely gotten his attention. I said, "What's up?" He said, "Point the light over there between the 2 sheds and that oak tree." I aimed the spotlight to where I thought he had indicated, but saw nothing. Then he said, "No, beside the oak tree." Again, I aimed the light, but still didn't see anything. At this time, he became agitated and grabbed my arm, moving the spotlight where he wanted it, and exclaiming, "Right effing there." The light revealed a large upright figure standing behind the oak tree. The animal was standing obliquely to us, using the tree to block our view. The tree was probably 3.5 to 4 feet in diameter and about 30 yards from us. But we could still see it standing there with the right side of his body at an angle to us. I noticed how the arms hung almost to its knees, and it stood slouched forward a bit, with its knees bent slightly. It was covered with brownish red hair, maybe 2 to 3 inches long, and appeared to be uniform in length except for his face, which appeared ape-like. It sounds funny, but the face looked similar to Harry from Harry and the Hendersons. As the animal stood there, I panned the spotlight off to the right from its location. When I did this, it half-stepped from behind the tree, peering to see what we were doing. When I brought the beam of light back, it immediately stepped back behind the oak tree, remaining at an oblique angle to our position. I again panned the light away to the right, and the animal again half-stepped to the right to see what we were doing. When the light came back, it again hid behind the tree. Almost in amusement, I turned the spotlight off for 3 to 4 seconds. I then pointed it directly at the tree and hit on the switch. The beam of light came on, the animal squinted, and the right of the oak tree and squarely facing us. When the light came on, the animal, oh boy, I read that line twice. Now I'm doing good, aren't I? The animal squinted and retreated back behind the oak tree. Only this time, it retreated back through the woods, using the tree to block our view of its departure. After we could no longer hear it crashing away through the brush, my son and I stood there shaking in amazement of what we had seen. After a moment, I finally managed to smile and said, "Holy crap, dude, we just saw a Sasquatch." With that, my son replied, "That was freaking awesome." We went back inside and talked about the details of what we'd seen for quite a while before heading off to bed. The next morning, I went out to look for tracks where we'd seen the late-night visitor. Here in East Tennessee, the soil is mostly clay and not conducive to tracking. But I was still able to locate 2 footprints behind the oak tree. They measured just under 17 inches in length and about 6.5 inches wide across the ball of the foot. Also, there was another print in the leaf litter to the right of the tree, but it wasn't clear enough to measure. Due to the hardness of the soil, the tracks were not deep enough to cast. Further investigation did not yield any further track along the animal's route of egress. I've discussed this event with friends and co-workers, mostly being met with doubt and skepticism, but my son and I both have no doubt whatsoever what we had seen. Before we moved out of that house due to divorce, we continued to observe strange occurrences from time to time, but never had another visual encounter. Wow, what a story. There's another one. And of course, people had a hard time believing it as usual, and I wonder why. Oh yeah, because we keep being told they don't exist. So, your friends and family, you know, the ones that are supposed to have your back, make fun of you, don't believe you. Well, we're here to put a stop to that. If somebody tells me they saw something, I'm going to believe them. Because, well, maybe they didn't see what they thought they might have seen, but they saw something. And like I've said before in other videos, okay, let's just say it was not a Bigfoot that caused the occurrence or encounter or whatever. But maybe it was worse. Maybe it was a frickin' human with bad intentions. So you'd better listen to your family members, your loved ones, your children especially. Somebody says they saw something, peeking around the tree at them, and they give them the creeps, and their sixth sense was jumping off the scale. You'd better take it seriously, because that's a sign of danger. We have the sixth sense for a reason. People feel it on the battlefield when danger's around. People feel it walking around at night when danger's around. We need to pay attention to it, especially with our children's concerned. These creatures seem to be drawn to our children, and let's face it, sometimes children disappear. Now, we don't know if it's these creatures. Many times there are stories of these creatures being kind to people and actually saving their lives. So I don't know. Sometimes these creatures drive people out of the forest. Maybe it's because they got too close to their children, or maybe it's because there's something else in the forest that they're driving the people away for their own good. I heard of a story, I can't remember where it was. I'm going to try to find it again so I can read the entire details. But it was somewhere down in the mountain areas of the Carolinas or Tennessee. It took place maybe 50, 60 years ago. A young girl was in the mountains with her family and near a river, and she came face to face with a Sasquatch, and the Sasquatch spoke and said, "Go." And she became very, very scared and left, and told her parents, and they, of course, didn't believe her, which is a frequent thing to happen. But anyways, within a couple of hours, a flash flood hit the area, and if she had stayed in that area and her family, they would have been lost, died, drowned. And apparently the Sasquatch were aware of floods coming down off the mountains and told the girl to leave. So we don't know if we see these creatures and hear them and they're chasing us out. We got to go. Listen to your instinct. And sometimes they may be getting us away from danger. So thank you very much for listening. That's a great story that we just heard. Make sure you like the video, leave some comments below, and share to other folks that would appreciate and like listening to these stories. Once again, another great story. Thanks for tuning in. Please share your encounter. Email us, bfrealencounters@mail.com. Your story is very important. We will treat it with the respect that it deserves. Also, be sure to smash the like button, share, and subscribe. Thanks once again. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Watch out for our next video. Maybe we'll feature yours. Have a great day.